Futureproof is sponsored by Carrot Events, showcasing your company values with high-impact, bespoke events. Hello and welcome to Futureproof. Thank you so much for joining me again this week, Sarah Hopwood, as I continue these business programs. And yes, emotional intelligence is my subject, but it's not what all the programs are about. Actually, I think it is. I think emotionally intelligent thinking is very much evident, if you like, in what my guests have to say. And I have to say, if you've been following this series 3, then you'll know that I have had a few ladies in the studio, and I wanted to invite them back because I wanted to find out what it is that miffs them off about the business world. So if you know Room 101, this is Business 101. So I hope that you enjoy the programme. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me again. It's really good to see you.
You too, Sarah. Good to be back.
It's fantastic. So we've got Faiza Shafiq here. So she sponsors this series, which is actually fantastic, with Carrot Events.
Pleasure.
And you put on events, don't you?
Absolutely,
From,
yeah.
Forums, expos,
business awards, community awards, yeah,
all that lot. And then we have Joanna Zara, and you are a hat milliner. How do you say it right? I'm not saying it right.
Hat designer.
Hat designer. So it's fantastic. If you've watched any of the earlier programmes, we were wearing some of the hats. We talked about our hats, and indeed learnt as to how hats were built. So if you want to know more about that, then you can actually look on my YouTube website, and you can actually click round and see that programme again. And then we have Alison Jones here from Creston Reeves, the accountants, and we were talking about the future of accountancy, and you were very excited, actually, weren't you, about the future of accountancy?
I am. It's fantastic.
It is relational, and it's an exciting time for you guys, and everybody wants to actually talk to someone and be listened to, and for that person to not be a robot. So I think that's absolutely cool.
Right.
But ladies, we're not talking about any of that today. Oh, no. I want to know, what is it that gets your goat in the business world, you know? So Alison, can I start with you? What gets your goat?
Well, a couple of things, to be honest. And two main subjects. One is inherent bias. And
what do you mean?
Well, what I mean by that is I heard this story this other day about a lady who'd had an email from the headmaster of a boys' school, and it was talking about what was happening now the 20s were here. Three things. One was obviously the climate change. To be honest, I can't remember what the second one was, but the third one was talking about how the Me Too generation was here and how there were going to be more women in business. And when she was sort of talking about it, she was saying, this is really great. We're talking to the boys about this, and we said, hang on a minute, why is that a challenge? And she hadn't realised or appreciated that inherent bias.
Yes.
Why is that a challenge?
So you're saying inherent bias, BIAS?
Yes, I am.
Yes, yeah, not buyers. If it sounds like buyers through the TV, and also, why is it new or considered new?
Exactly right. Why are you writing to boys at a school saying that women that are actually making any kind of position in business is a challenge to them? I mean, it's just strange.
What do you think about that, ladies?
I think we're just over 100 years from women in Britain getting the vote, and I think although on certain levels many things have changed, on other levels they haven't changed at all, and it can be partly from inherent bias, as you say. It is sometimes as well from the women themselves. A lot of women still have this. We're strong women, the three of us. So yes, we believe in ourselves and we're strong women. But there are a lot of women who still don't, and they still don't have that strength. And they relay that. And to have a school that's a boys' school saying that, telling the parents that actually more and more women are coming into the business, that's a danger to the boys. Why should it be a danger? It's a challenge, a challenge. Why is it a challenge?
But
it
knowing
shouldn't be a
education,
challenge. It should be an added bonus.
Yes. But
in
knowing
actual fact.
education, I think possibly she was challenging their kind of. My children and Daniel went to an all-boys school, and you know, and I do sometimes wonder in that environment. It was until he was 13 as to whether there was, because it's boys together, and I put him into that community. And the other thing I just want to say too is I think you're right, and I say this with all due respect, is ladies don't always help themselves, and sometimes it's because of their journey, but we sometimes unwittingly show people how to do it and actually give them permission as well without meaning to, because of our journey.
I think the issue is as well, and a lot of women, and I've had this back in comments, I think a lot of women say, why should I battle to try and reach a specific goal when I look at what's around in businesses and high businesses, and I don't see many women holding those seats.
Yeah, but Alison, you were saying too, you know, talking about, and in fact maybe Joanna, if I can bring you in here too, about, you know, women having higher priority roles. But one of the things we all said is, but at the end of the day, the best man, best person gets the job, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't
We
have
agree with that.
sympathetic.
Yeah,
Go on.
I something struck me about the first 5 minutes of our conversation, that we have done something that I think we need to be careful about, which is we are once again assuming that as women it's our job to solve the problem. And
You're
I think
right.
we have to be careful, because
It
we do
isn't our
tend to
job.
do this. We say, you know, some of us are there, some of us feeling very strong power, some of us aren't. And actually, you know, we're not existing in a vacuum. We're existing in a world at the moment where people are doing things that are, and when we were talking in the break about people are, unfairness is happening, and we do have a tendency to say, okay, we better solve the problem.
Yeah, but the bias is going the other way as well. I mean, we were talking, it's probably all over by now, but we were talking about the election for the new Labour candidate, weren't we, for the new Labour leader? And they're saying it's got to be a woman, and actually it should be the person who is the best person
That's
for
what
the
you
job,
were saying,
irrespective of whether they're male or female.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. This bias is probably going both ways.
Both
to be
ways,
honest.
yeah.
It's tricky though. It's so tricky because I think that we're all we have to be really. I think we all see ourselves as feminists, but I think we all still have quite subtle, instinctive, almost involuntary reactions to things that aren't necessarily correct. I mean, I know, you know, if you have that story about I don't know, there's that lateral thinking story about someone ending up on the operating theatre and they're being operated, and the surgeon says, I can't operate on that child because it's my son.
That's right.
And they say, but we thought the father died in the accident. No, it's the mother.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've all got caught up on that one, but we do still sometimes make assumptions. I think, you know, and some of it's to do with historically what we've become used to. There's a lot of talk in the media about women's voices, and this used to be a reason for not having women in media at all, because their voices didn't sound right. Now we're not at that
too
stage.
high pitched.
If you remember Hillary Clinton, Margaret Thatcher.
Well, they actually had voice coaching, and I know that Malcolm Levine, if you're watching, I know that certainly you helped Tony Blair with his internal and external branding, and the voicing and the speaking was all important with all of that. So do you think, just going back to that school for a second, do you think that they were meaning to say to the boys this is a challenge, or do you think they were recognising the culture they were in and saying
I think it was done in all innocence, to be honest. I think they were just reflecting on how the next decade is potentially going to be different from the past decade, in the fact that, you know, potentially there is going to be more equality, and I think that's all they were trying to say, but the way it was worded, I just don't think they realised that using the word challenge was necessarily the right, because it's not a challenge, it's just interesting.
And that's the problem with words and writing them down. It is written and it's for the reader to interpret, so it's quite a challenge. Do stay with me, because I want to find out from you too, what is it that gets your goat about the business world, and I've got a little idea for myself too. So do come back after the break, and we'll be hearing from the other two, and I might even throw in my penny's worth as well. So we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you. Well done. EQ, emotional quotient, is better known as emotional intelligence. It is a tangible tool that can sit alongside your services or your product, and it can be taught. Leaders with high EQ have less stress, they're more effective, and they earn more money. There's a great saying, just because we have pains, it does not give us permission to be a pain. I believe that teaching emotional intelligence has a direct impact on your sense of success and your net profits. EQ will empower you and your workforce to drive the change that you want. Change brings transition. EQ can help unpack what's holding you back and speed up that period of transition.